Okay, so today we're diving into a huge question for pretty much every educator out there. How in the world do you keep things fair and honest in the classroom now that AI is everywhere? Look, we're going to move way past those clunky, often wrong software detectors. Instead, we'll focus on us, on human-centered ways to spot AI in student writing. So how can we train ourselves to be better human detectors? Let's get into it.
All right, just look at these two sentences for a second. On the left, you've got something simple, pretty direct, maybe a few little grammar mistakes. I go store yesterday, I buy milk, it good. And then on the right, totally different. Super complex words, perfect sentence structure. I mean, venture to the emporium to procure dairy products? Wow. They're talking about the exact same thing, but man, the styles are just worlds apart, right?
Okay, so here's a little pop quiz for you. If you were to feed both of these into one of those standard AI detection tools, which one do you think gets flagged? Which one does the software say was written by a machine? The fancy, complex one or the simple one?
And believe it or not, it's the simple one. Yup, the simple one gets flagged. And this just perfectly shows the massive problem we're facing. These AI detectors, they're just not reliable. And they're especially bad for non-native English speakers. Why? Because they often mistake simple, predictable sentence structure for AI-generated text. So you end up getting these false positives that penalize students who are just, learning the language. And that is the detection dilemma.
So you can see this is about way more than just trying to catch cheaters with some buggy software. The real issue here, it goes so much deeper. It really gets to the core of what we do as educators. What we're really talking about is protecting the whole idea of a valid assessment. And what do we mean by valid assessment? Well, it's pretty simple, really. It's just the idea that an assignment should be able to tell you what a student actually knows and what they can actually do. But think about it. When a student just uses AI, you're not grading them anymore. You're not seeing their knowledge or their unique inner language, that cool in-between stage of learning English. Nope, you're grading a machine. And at that point, the whole assessment is basically useless. It's totally invalid.
Okay, so what do we do about it? How do we fight back? Well, we forget about the software and we start becoming better human detectors. And our first strategy is all about learning to listen for a student's unique voice, to look for their own personal stylistic fingerprints.
I love this way of putting it. Don't think of the change as just a little tremor, it's a stylistic earthquake. You know your students, how they write, their common little mistakes, the way they phrase things. So when their writing suddenly goes from that to perfect, that's not just a small improvement. That's a huge red flag. So what does this earthquake actually look like in an essay? Well, there are three big things to look out for. First, there's the vocabulary jump. A student who usually writes very sad is suddenly dropping words like melancholy? Second, look for the connector overload. All of a sudden, their paper is just packed with words like moreover, furthermore, and consequently, words you have never heard them say out loud. And finally, punctuation perfection. Out of nowhere, they've mastered semicolons and em dashes. That's a huge tell.
All right, strategy number 2. This one takes advantage of a really big weakness in AI, what we can call the personalization gap. We're basically searching for that empty spot where a real human story is supposed to be. And this quote just nails it perfectly. An AI is a pattern-matching machine, right? It knows about birthdays because it's read billions of things about them. But AI doesn't have a grandmother. It's never had a birthday cake get burned or felt the specific joy of opening a gift it really wanted. It can't fake genuine, one-of-a-kind personal experiences. And this weakness leads us to a really simple, powerful test. Step 1, assign a prompt that needs a personal memory. Ask about a specific smell from their childhood kitchen, or a time they felt super embarrassed. Then, step 2, if the essay they turn in feels kind of generic, pull them aside and ask a specific, unscriptable follow-up question. Something like, hey, you wrote about your grandpa's workshop. That's so cool. What were you guys building in there? A student who actually has that memory will have something to say, even if it's not perfect English. A student who used AI, they're probably just going to freeze.
Okay. Our third and final strategy. And honestly, this one might just be the most powerful of them all because it completely changes our focus. We're going to stop obsessing over the final product and start looking at the process itself. It's time to put on our detective hats and follow the trail. So how do we do that? Simple. You require a trail of breadcrumbs. Ask to see their brainstorms, the messy mind maps or just a list of bullet points.
Demand a rough draft, and I mean a really rough draft, with mistakes and crossed-out sentences. See, it's really hard for a student using AI to fake that stuff backwards. And here is a pro tip. If you're using something like Google Docs, just check the version history. Was the essay typed out bit by bit over a few hours or a few days? Or did it all just appear at once, pasted in as one big perfect chunk?
And that's really the key here. A student who actually does the work has a journey, you know? It's full of wrong turns and edits and aha moments. But a student who just copies and pastes from an AI, they only have the destination. They have no journey. And if you start assessing the journey, it becomes almost impossible to just swap in AI for real work.
So as we start to bring this all together, it's pretty clear that these strategies, they're not just little tricks for catching students. They really represent a huge shift in our mindset, in how we have to think and act as educators in this brand new AI world. So let's just do a super quick recap of this human-centered approach. What is it? It's listening for your students' actual, authentic voice. It's asking for their real, personal stories. And it's watching their process unfold, the good, the bad, and the messy. It's all about engagement, not about enforcement.
And that really brings us to the final big idea here. In this age of AI, our job, it has to change. We need to stop thinking of ourselves as cheater catchers who are stuck in some kind of tech arms race that, frankly, we're never going to win. Instead, our new role is to become protectors of validity. Our job is to make sure our assignments are real, that they're meaningful, and that they actually measure what our students truly know and can do on their own.